That was such a nice introduction. Thank you. I'm not always happy. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming, everyone that did. So I'm Jana. I'm our Director of Events and Experiential at HashiCorp.
And I'm Cris, and I head the Experiential Design team. And
we want to basically talk about like what our team does and all the things that go behind the experiences that we create.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
We create memorable experiences for our community. And so that involves everything from global trade show programs to Hashi Days, single track, all the way to our big flagship conferences in Seattle this year. Oops, is that a spoiler?
Oh, I think people know about Seattle. Yeah. And then who we do it for? So we do it for the HashiCorp community.
So what we've learned about our HashiCorp community is that they're incredibly engaged and thirsty for knowledge, and excited about the work they do, and excited about HashiCorp, and excited to connect to each other and to something. And that's been a process from the beginning, kind of fostering this community, and we take it very seriously, and we hold a lot of integrity on how we treat our community and how we design experiences for them. And next slide.
Yes.
Cool.
And then this is why we do it.
So there are benefits to our community by doing this. First of all, it enables them to learn from each other and for us to learn from them. But they come together and they really connect, and they feel like there's a safe space often in our place where you come together and it's all a shared interest. So you know, for instance, when you come to a HashiCorp event, that every single person there understands what you do, why you do it, your challenges, because it's kind of this niche kind of interest sect, right?
Mm-hmm. And then also why we do it for HashiCorp. So it creates these advocates, as you saw like today on the customer panel. People, they're excited, right? They understand the value of the products that we build, and like you saw them this morning raving about HashiCorp, about the products, about like the partnerships that we're building with each other. Mm-hmm. It also increases loyalty. So if something does happen, right? If for some reason one of our products doesn't work for a second, they still stay with us, right? They still stay with us.
And by providing something of actual value where people can come and learn and be part of something authentic, it's just a natural brand advocate. So we don't have to make an effort when we're just kind of really honestly from our hearts trying to provide people with something that is useful and valuable to them.
And it also opens up channels for valuable feedback. Mm-hmm. Again, today, as the two customers were sitting on stage, we're like, what else can we do, right? Okay, making our products easier to deploy, more documentation, the Learn platform, right? Having these open channels of dialogue is really important.
Yeah.
Cool. And then how we do it. So Cris and I, over the last few years, have spent time refining, but these are our building blocks. So these are the building blocks that we base every decision around.
Yeah. So number one being knowledge sharing. So we focus towards academia. We spend a lot more money on audiovisual, on content creation than we do on, let's say, banners or design or some like swag, for instance.
A big party.
Because really people are here to learn. And so we create and design our spaces all based on that forward. So you're here to learn, you're here to sit down, you're here to share with each other. So how are we going to design for that and not design for, let's say, the wow factor, which you hear about a lot. Yeah.
And this is a great photo. So this is Mitchell at one of our conferences listening as a customer is on stage. And this to the right, Brandon, this was an open source user that is now an employee as well. So we really love this photo.
And it could be something as simple as how you organize furniture. So if right now, this is not a knowledge sharing layout where you're all facing me. Right? You're not talking to each other, you're not looking at each other. So a way we could just reorganize this room is I could be standing in the middle and you'd be all around me, and now we're facing each other and we're making eye contact and connecting. And it can be as simple as rearranging chairs, but sometimes it can be a lot more complicated, and genuine connections is something that is easy to say and really hard to execute. How do you create a genuine connection? Okay.
And so we spend a lot of time thinking about spaces, right? How we place furniture, the type of experiences we add within our experiences, right, to foster these genuine connections. This is a great photo. This is the founder of 1Password and the CEO of 1Password, and they're just hanging out, right? We just try to make things very comfortable and inviting, right? We know that our practitioners like to put their laptops out on a table and look at code and share code. So again, every piece of furniture, every layout that we do is so thoughtful to allow for these genuine connections.
Not does that chair look good, but is it comfortable? Yeah, and like maybe can people set their laptops on the table? Is it big enough? But we also create this environment that feels safe and comfortable by how we communicate with people, how we place branding, where it's not just shoving it in your face, but maybe a bit more subtle, like we're not selling to you, instead we're providing a place that you feel comfortable.
And that also goes along with like the vibe, like how we communicate with people and our tone, right? So whenever we send marketing promotion or even like the copy that we write on the website, it's very matter of fact. It's highly technical. We come off very mature, professional.
We communicate
honest.
how I want to be communicated to.
Yeah. Again,
Right.
it's empathetic thinking, right? It's treating people with respect.
How would you talk to your best friend? Because that's, if we lead by example, we set the tone for our community, as being part of HashiCorp. And if we really mean that, you can feel the difference.
Yeah.
So designing with empathy. So people first design is something you hear a lot about, but I don't know that it's being executed is with empathy. And what I mean by that is, how are people gonna feel when they're in the space? So a lot of conferences you come to, and the first thing you see at the keynote is there's like disco lights and loud
fog
music
machines.
and like things flying across, and it's really, really spectacular, but it also maybe makes you feel a little bit anxious or a little bit excited, but does it make you feel calm, and does it make you receptive to actually like receiving whatever knowledge there is? Especially we're giving highly technical talks where we're talking, you're doing code review or live demos, and I don't think we need smoke, right? What I think we need is, it's code that you can read on screens that are big enough, right? Like things that really, how does that person feel when they're there? Is it easy to be there? Is it freezing cold in the room? Does the music make you feel calm? So I always like to think about every decision I make is like, how would I feel sitting there? And a lot of those times that means that I'm going to remove design, or it doesn't look as nice, but it doesn't matter if it looks nice. It matters how it feels to people.
Yeah. So we always put our attendees first at like every decision.
It does matter if it looks nice.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say.
But it doesn't matter as much.
And then our last building block, and this is what we talked about, is building trust. So it's building trust for our community members within each other, right? And for them to trust us as well. So again, right, we think of like bringing the HashiCorp brand to life in a physical space, and that also incorporates like who we are, right? Our principles. We're very kind. We try to create inviting spaces, and then that allows people to communicate with us, and that builds trust because we're like, come interact with us. We're your friends. And like the customer panel, he was saying, he's like, I think of this as a partnership. I don't think of you selling to me, right? I think of us as like we are in this together.
Yeah, we're setting the tone for open dialogue where we're not talking at people, but we're all just talking together.
Yeah. Like this is a great photo that Cris picked. So this is the HashiCorp zone that Cris designed last year. And what I love about this photo is it's one of our engineers sitting and listening to of our users talk and connect to each other, right? But it was the way we created that space that we allowed for that interaction to happen.
Yeah.
And then so those, we've spent the last couple of years really like refining those building blocks, again, that we make every decision on. And here are just a couple of applied lessons, a couple of programs that we've done that we're really proud of.
Yeah, core contributor packs. So we put these together as a way to say thank you to our core contributors that contribute to our open source products, and each one was a special t-shirt that had never been made before, that was unique, and it had their tool that they contributed to was highlighted in a box that said thank you with a golden ticket, and it was meaning they could go to any of our conferences that year for free.
Yeah.
And we had a really, like, people were so excited. And then we saw them at our next event in the wild. There were maybe 5 or more people wearing these core contributor shirts, like, as badges of honor.
And then I think what they didn't realize was, like, there were only 6 of these Nomad shirts out in the wild, right? That only existed, or that there were only 10 of these Terraform shirts. And as these core contributors met in the wild, they were like, how do I get those other ones, right? And we're like, well, we're gonna do these against next year's. So we made these, like, these collector's items that then made people wanna contribute to our other products.
Yeah, and they felt appreciated.
Yeah.
And it can sometimes be as simple as a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Right.
And a nicely designed thank you box.
Yeah.
The Pride campaign is something that we launched last year that we're really proud of.
Yeah, one of our employees came to us and asked if they could have a sticker to hand out at Pride, and which was great, of course, right? But it went against our brand guidelines, and so we thought about it. Not too long, because we wanted to do it. But then the sticker was so, like, well received, and it was one of our most popular stickers that Jana and I decided to launch a social media campaign for Pride last year, and then also create t-shirts that we gave out to everyone in the company. And for me personally, it made me feel really proud to work for HashiCorp.
Yeah, it was this message of for everyone everywhere, right? These were just shirts for us, but it's also how we feel about the community, right? Making it very inviting, and it is. HashiCorp is for everyone everywhere, and it's just I feel like, again, what we try to do is, like, very authentic campaigns that resonate with people.
Yeah, and if we are leading from our core principles and our values, that's something that other people can engage with. Be like, oh, HashiCorp is full of people. HashiCorp isn't just a corporation.
Yeah.
And so I feel connected to that because I believe in that too.
Yeah.
And all it was like, really just one banner image on Twitter, but it made me feel proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to that, like, having that genuine human connection. This is probably one of, who was able to attend Hashi Days Amsterdam last year? Oh, Clint was there. Yes, Jeff. This is probably one of my favorite experiences that we got to put together, because we took everything that we'd learned about, like, our community, how they like to engage with each other, how they like to absorb content, and we took a risk and we tried something different. Yeah. For example, like the way that Cris and her team did all the furniture. So we set up a bunch of, like, pillows and couches, and we had trees, right? And this venue was this open atrium, and it was really cool to watch because all of the soft seating ended up being filled first. So people actually wanted to sit, and then they sat in the chairs up front, but it's just like, people didn't leave. Like, all day they were just drinking coffee, and, like, they were just, like, in their living rooms hanging out, watching content, and people were just so happy and relaxed, but they were, like, watching, like, technical talks.
Yeah, and just a little detail, you see the macaroons when we announced Console Connect, and then we handed out cookies, and it's like, oh, I can touch this, and I can eat this.
I can eat a console.
Yeah, and it seems silly, but it was really kind of fun to be there. And you have a picture of a screenshot here of doing a design review with Jana on one of the maybe 10 stage design options that I showed her, and what has all the logos, because we had this big space behind the stage, so we're like, brand it. And I ended up removing all of the logos except just HashiCorp. It just had a black background, and I bought more plants instead. And so all behind the stage were hanging plants, and I brought in a few more trees because we don't need the logos there. You know, like, instead it was just kind of pleasant to look at.
Yeah, sometimes it's best to just remove the branding, right?
Yeah, so but I did that not because, I mean, of course it's great to have branding, but because I wanted to treat the audience that was there with respect. We don't need to shove our brand in their face. They're already at our event. Let's just give them something valuable. Like, and that was the content on the screen. Yeah. Not the logos underneath.
And then back to the console macaroons. We try, whenever we're doing big announcements, we try to actually tie that into the space, right? So when we were doing the Console Connect launch, yes, we gave out the macaroons. The Wi-Fi was connect everything, right? We snuck in magenta pillows, right? We try to, like, tie, like, what we're announcing publicly in these actual events, which is really cool.
Yeah, the lights changed subtly pink right before the announcement.
And then the console macaroons were tweeted as much as the actual announcement, which was really funny. So yeah. The HashiCorp zone, and this is something that Mishra and Melissa talked about in their exchange talk earlier, how a traditional booth doesn't work for us, and we try not to do traditional style conferences. And the HashiCorp zone is something that Cris and I spent a lot of time, like, rethinking how we set up.
Yeah. And it ended up, it's very low tech, right? I took 2 tables and I butted them up and made an L shape. But what that did is it enabled to have like a traditional front counter, but also a space where people could just hang out and lean over laptops and have a real conversation or have a cup of coffee. Because that's really how people engage. Our community engages with each other over leaning over and checking out someone else's code or just having a nice chat instead of just come up to us and let us sell you a product or look at our video loop. So we're always trying to think of ways to kind of mix up the traditional and make it just actually something that is how we're going to use the space. And maybe it's just a couch, how can we always innovate on something that's like what you're supposed to do and just do what feels right for us and our community. Yeah. So we spend a lot of time on design, as far as I'm talking about how people are gonna walk, where they're gonna sit, how they're gonna feel. And this is just a fun picture to illustrate that we print it all out and map every single decision.
And the Fairmont was a really hard space to work with. We're so how do we work with this space? And this is how we do it, right? We again, each space is carefully thought through, the type of furniture, the layout, the floor planning, and this is just a cool visual of how we work. And this is just really quickly, it's all about the little details, right? From when you checked in, you got your bags with your suntan lotion and your Keep cup and all that. So it's all about the details. For example, one of our customers is wearing HashiCorp pins, right? These were some things that we added, and then people were running around trying to collect all of them as collector's items. So they were going to different spaces and collecting them.
Yeah, and we could give out a lot of swag, and we don't. And we don't because we don't want to give out just things people don't need and create more waste. Yeah. So if we're going to give something out, it's going to be something that I think someone would want or keep, actually keep.
And then also we did this art plotter. So it was generating authentic art right on site that people are able to take with them.
Yeah.
Cool. And then we also, we have a couple more minutes, but we want to give you a sneak peek at all of our community experiences for next year. But we'll run through this really quickly. So based on everything that we've learned over the last few years working with the community, we're really excited to just, again, apply all of our learnings and knowledge. And so we're coming up with a fresh look and feel, and then here's also our program for next year.
Yeah, so we're using, just from a design perspective, more color and a lot more photography and things that just are a bit more engaging because people react to it and they want to connect to things, as we've learned. Yeah. And we have HashiConf US next year in San Diego.
Woo! And as you can see, so this is still the HashiCorp brand. We're using our product colors in a really interesting ingredients. These geometric shapes are our product icons.
Yep. And HashiConf EU in Amsterdam.
And then we're really excited, for the first time ever, we're doing one of our experiences in APAC. So we're going to do a Hashi Days in Sydney next year, which is going to be really exciting. We're working closely with the DA team, the community team, and the whole sales team there to put together this program. But the community there is big enough that they are ready for one of these type of experiences. And that's just an example of how this the community sub-brand will be applied in different spaces. And again, for us, it's we design with empathy, and we really want people to connect and engage to something. So using more colors, more gradients, shapes, all of that stuff.
Yeah, and just always innovating on ways we can create things that people feel excited about as well, outside of just the traditional. So thinking about how we're going to already deep into design on how we're going to build out these 3-dimensional spaces and make more experiences at the events that are of value.
Yeah. Cool. And there's just different ways that it's applied. We're also going to use this this coloring, this brand on the HashiCorp user groups. So we're creating this seamless flow across our user groups, across our Hashi Days and our HashiConfs, because these are all practitioner and these are all community experiences. So they're going to have a seamless look and feel next year. Cool.
And
that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.